Let's talk about Islamophobia. That is also a real thing. I mean, people. I think there are two levels of this. There are a lot of people who don't really understand. Like they have zero concept of. They haven't really read the religious textbooks. I mean, Quran and the Hadith. Hadith. The chapters of them, and I mean, I've read them. I don't remember them by heart. It's not really my thing, but I kind of understand where we're going, and I do know the differences between the various branches, and yeah, but yeah, I mean, I would say that I'm critical of religion, but it doesn't mean that I would hate people or want to take away their cultural heritage of their holidays. Like if you want to have Eid, it's probably fun. I mean, going to the Mecca, like I would go to the I would like I've been to I've been to Rome and went to see the Vatican. I mean, it's just a place you go, admire the architecture. There's a lot of history behind it. And I mean, Ramadan seems like a fun holiday. Like, it doesn't need to, like, critique of religion. You don't need to give up your old, like, things from your past if they're good. I mean, like foods, or if there's like a holiday, you want to do certain things that are fun, and you don't really need any kind of religion to do those things. And that's where I think, like, if we start questioning the customs, and well, of course, every religion has bad customs. Like, the Quran has quite a bit of stuff that it says about equality of women. I mean, people tend to argue against this, but if you read it, you can find them. Like, especially in courts, and it was written in another time, and we need equality nowadays. Like, but yeah, it's like if you still cling on to those things that are not relevant in this society, then I think that's a valid point to be criticizing. The same thing with Christianity. There's a lot of thing about, like, the virtues of sin, of sexual things. I mean, there's a lot of things that people think that you should be kind of like pure into going to marriage. And yeah, well, if that's your thing, then you do that, but don't bring it on others. Like, if you want to live in some kind of system that the man is the boss and you're fine with it, but live according to it, but you have to have a choice. It shouldn't. I mean, if you inherited that from culturally, and you be brainwashed into that, that's not really like a place where you can actually say that no, there isn't any kind of patriarchy there. Like, and that happens in a lot of Middle Eastern countries. There is patriarchy there, quite a bit. And I would argue that part of it is coming from the religious texts, because it reads in there. Like, if you argue against that, then I don't know, you are not looking in the Quran. And of course, people argue, it is there. You can't miss it if you read it. Can't miss these things. The same thing for there's kind of a hatred for dogs in the Islamic culture? And do we see a lot of dogs as pets in the Middle East? We absolutely don't. If you look at the statistics, there must be some kind of cultural heritage taken from the holy texts, which maybe doesn't make that much sense. I mean, are dogs all that dirty? I guess you could find all kinds of explanations to this. Same thing with eating pig meat. I mean, they did have diseases, so maybe it came from there. But is it relevant in this day and age where we do have veterinarians and we can check for these diseases? No, it really isn't. Like eating pork, is it really all that bad? Maybe being a vegetarian is better, but like then you have to be all throughout the spectrum. But I would say that, you know, that's a choice. I mean, a lot of Jews don't do that either. But I don't think that it's entirely like relevant in this day and age where we do have veterinarians. We can check for diseases and generally these are pretty safe things to do, like going to the supermarket and eat it. And yeah, so that's the kind of critique you can look at, like but it doesn't have to take away your like whole identity. You don't have to become something completely different, but you do have to kind of what would be the best that if you follow kind of these things is to actually critically see that are these assumptions on religion valid. And most likely nowadays the science has made it so that they aren't all that valid. Like talking snakes, that would be quite counter to you know, any kind of biological means of how snakes actually make noise. Actually, most of them don't make any kind of noise except for hissing, but they don't really, or rattling, but they don't have vocal cords. Evolutionary ways of, there are no lineages where we find speech, or they do have communication styles, but yeah, speech isn't one of them, like even near one of them. There hasn't been one example of a talking snake on this whole planet. None. Zero. And that's a problem. I mean, if you go claiming like in ancient texts that there are things like that, it's most likely they were superstitious then. Somebody invented a story and it's just not true. It's absolutely not true. So yeah, and then you gotta ask yourself, like we know a lot about GDP. So if we talk about women's issues, we do look at the Middle East, and sure there are like feminist movements there, but the fact is that it is still lagging behind. Even in I don't know, if you look at statistics, even in the UK, like Bangladeshi women tend to work less. They tend to be less in work. I don't know if that's entirely up to religion, so it could be poor education. But I'm quite certain that there is that element of cultural religion, and it's hard to really argue against. And that's what I am against, like in this blind faith in God, you know, or your Quranic text. I mean, it makes a lot more sense in terms of GDP to have actually women at work. It makes a lot more sense, and that's something that we should be aiming for. And you know, So are those religious based? I do think there is a bit of that, and that's what I want to critique. Like, and that's not Islamophobia. I really don't hate the customs or the foods or anything like that. And if you want to keep the faith in your own home, that's fine. I mean, but there are certain things that we should look at, like hating dogs. Is that really really relevant in this day and age? You know, but you can choose to do those things, but we should be able to say that, hey, this isn't something that makes sense in this day and age. We do have veterinarians, and we can solve a lot of these issues that maybe they were a thing of the past. So I mean, but there are things that, maybe aren't so good, like drinking, for example. I don't know. It causes a lot of harm in the Western society, and it's hard to justify it over, because there are substances that are better than that, But does it mean that you should ban it altogether? Well, I wouldn't. But it's definitely not all of the things are like completely bad. And if you start nitpicking stuff, then you can find whatever you like, in any book. I probably could take the, Hitler's book and find some good things in it, I would just have to, not sure if I could, but probably something, I would find some sentence somewhere that, makes sense and quote that. All right, yeah, so let's say no to religion and yes to customs. All right, bye.